We take a look at part of Luke's account of the crucifixion of Christ in chapter 23, verse 32 and following through to the end. Two other men, both criminals, were also led out with him to be executed. When they came to the place called the Skull, they crucified him there along with the criminals, one on his right and one on his left. Jesus said, "Father, forgive them. They do not know what they're doing." And they divided up his clothes by casting lots. The people stood watching, and the rulers even sneered at him. They said, "He saved others, let him save himself. If he is God's Messiah, the chosen one." And the soldiers, they came up and mocked him. They offered him wine, vinegar, and said, "If you're the king of the Jews, save yourself." There was a written notice above him which read, "This is the King of the Jews." One of the criminals who hung there hurled insults at him. "Aren't you the Messiah? Save yourself and us." The other criminal rebuked him. "Don't you fear God?" He said, "Since we're under the same punishment, the same sentence, we're punished justly, for we're getting what our deeds deserve, but this man has done nothing wrong." Then he said, "Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom." Jesus answered him, "Truly I tell you, today you will be with me in paradise." Would you bow with me for a word of prayer? So gracious God, we thank you so much for your word and for your love for us, the nobodies, the ones that no one notices. Whoever. Thank you. Amen. Amen. So we're going to look at three of the folks that were involved with Jesus. We're going to start with, I think you just shut me off out here, Ray. You shut my preview off. That one he didn't shut off. This one back here, the one I watch. I want to be able to see what's going on. Anyway, we're going to look at three individuals that have had an encounter with Jesus, finishing with the thief on the cross. And as we look at this, my thoughts on this focus around this word, whoever. Whoever. Throughout Scripture, that word is used all over the place. And it's a simple word. It means any person who will. Anyone who will, basically. Whoever. So we have Scripture after Scripture after Scripture that use that word to give this all-encompassing love of Jesus to the world. The most famous one, John 3:16. "Whoever believes in the Son has eternal life, but whoever rejects the Son will not see life, for God's wrath remains on them." Whoever believes. "Whoever acknowledges me before others, I will also acknowledge before my Father in heaven. Whoever finds his life will love it, or will lose it. But whoever loves his life for my sake, and the sake of the gospel, will find it." Whoever. Whoever. Talks about the fact that Jesus wants everyone. Wants everyone. And when you think about it, we're all just faces in the crowd. I mean, seriously, no matter how unique we are, we don't stand out. Most of us are not famous. Most of us are not going to be remembered long beyond our passing from this earth. We're whoever's. Like the song says, we're nobodies. It's not that we're terrible, not that we're bad, we're just not anything special. But in God's eyes, we are. We're whoever. I mean, who isn't? Who isn't a whoever? We all whoever's. We all are someone in God's eyes. And the reason I like the song that we played a little earlier is because it talks so much about the fact that God through Jesus, has this uncanny ability to pick people that nobody else would pick. That if you looked at them and you said, let's see, now is this a good choice? You'd pass over them. The first one that really I'm so interested in is Levi, or Matthew, the tax collector. You know Jesus had a tax collector as one of his disciples, right? And a tax collector in the time of Jesus, you know, and I'm sorry if there's any tax collectors in the room. Tax collectors now aren't real popular. I mean, you know, you go to a party and you find out somebody works for the IRS, you don't want to sit and talk to them. You want to talk to somebody else, right? I mean, you just don't. Well, the tax collectors in the time of Christ were just a couple of steps above pond scum. They were despised by the Jewish people. Completely despised. They were sinners. They were unclean. They were not welcome in the temple. They were not welcome in a pleasant Jew's home. They would not be invited into the high priest's house or even anybody. They wouldn't invite them because they collaborated with the Romans. They were collecting taxes, which Jewish people hated. Taxes were only to be given to God, not to anybody else, not to any earthly power. And so not only did they collect the taxes, but they made a little on the side. They overcharged and kept the difference. And Rome didn't care. As a matter of fact, Rome gave them Roman soldiers so that if somebody wouldn't pay, they had enforcement. Levi, Matthew, was a tax collector. And Jesus came to him at his tax collection booth, maybe something like this, his little stand where he fleeced the people on a regular basis, and walked up to him and said, "Come and follow me." And Matthew closed up shop and followed him. And later gave a big party for all of his friends so they could meet Jesus. Not the kind of person that you would pick to put on your ministry outreach team. A tax collector. Wouldn't be popular with almost anybody in any city in Jerusalem or Bethlehem or any of those places. He would not be a popular fellow. And yet, that's who Jesus put on his disciple team. Matthew, the tax collector. Whoever will follow me, whoever will give me themselves can be part of my team. And that's because Jesus didn't look at the outward appearances of the people. He didn't care about tax collectors or Gentile or Roman or Jew. Or what he cared about was people's hearts. And obviously in Matthew he saw something. And so he chose him. The next one's a story that I'm sure many of you have heard, the story of the woman at the well. Jesus is in Samaria. And that's a whole other problem. That they were almost, well, I think, truthfully, Samaritans were probably lower than tax collectors. According to the Jewish people, they had very little time for Samaritans. Samaritans had sort of perverted and polluted the religion. And so the good, law-abiding Jews despised Samaritans too. So Jesus is sitting at a well in the middle of the day, hottest part of the day, and his disciples have gone into the nearby city to get some food. And he's sitting at the well, and a woman comes out. Now, women don't normally come to the well in the middle of the day. They're not dumb. They come when it's cooler. They come out in the morning or late in the evening as it cools. They don't come in the hot, hot sun. But this woman did. And she was curious to see a man there, a Jewish man. And even more curious as Jesus spoke to her, which was also not something that good Jews did. They didn't speak to Samaritans. And Jewish men didn't speak to women unless they were related to them, and they certainly didn't speak to Samaritan women. And Jesus asks her to give him a drink of water. And they get into a theological discussion, at which time he says, well, if you knew who you were talking to, you'd be asking me for a drink of water, and you'd never be thirsty again. And she said, oh, I want some of that water. And Jesus said, go and call your husband and have him come. And she hesitated a little bit because I don't remember the number. She'd had several husbands. And the man she was with now was not her husband. And as she hesitated, Jesus told her all about who she was and where she had come from. And when the disciples came back with the food, she left and she went into the village, and they were curious as to why Jesus had been talking to this woman. And soon she came out with all sorts of people from the village. She said, come and see this man who told me all about myself. One of the first missionaries of the Christian church, the woman at the well. Interestingly enough, we don't even know her name. We do know that she was there, but she too was a nobody. A face in the crowd. The village people knew her. Everybody in the village knew who she was. They knew what she was like and what she had done, and they whispered behind her back, and sometimes not behind her back, sometimes right to her face. But Jesus listened to her. Jesus talked to her. And Jesus sent her to tell the people about himself. Another nobody, a whoever, who would have never been known if she hadn't met Jesus that day. And then we come to a guy that was at the end of his rope, literally. He was done for. His life was over. He was hanging on a cross and would die soon. He knew that. He also knew that even though he didn't like the idea, he had done things that deserved having himself put on a cross and killed in that way. Didn't mean he wanted to die, but he knew that he deserved it. We don't know his name either. Thief 1 and Thief 2. Left thief, right thief. We don't even know that. We don't know which side of Jesus he was hanging on. We just know that one of them joined in with the crowd and yelled and mocked and made fun of Jesus. And this criminal saw something. And he reached out to Jesus and said, Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. And Jesus uttered those words that all of us want to know and hear. Today you will be with me in paradise. Don't have any idea what the man's name is, but we do know one thing. Somewhere in heaven, there's a guy walking around that never expected to be anywhere near the place. Truthfully, friends, there's a lot of people walking around there that never had any dream of making it to heaven. Because Jesus doesn't worry about if you're a criminal hanging on the cross, if you're a Samaritan woman with not the best background, if you're a despised and hated tax collector, any of those things. Because Christ wants to show us his love. He shows him friendship to us. He gives us that grace, that love that only a friend can give. And as we said Sunday, this is a friend that stays closer than a brother, Jesus. He didn't worry about who people were. He just cared about what they were. So we're all just nobodies. But part of what we're to do is to tell everybody about the somebody saved our soul. You know, the thief on the cross, you wouldn't think he had a chance, but how many people throughout history has he told about Jesus through the story that we just read? The Samaritan woman went back into her village and brought the whole village out to hear Jesus. Matthew went on to be a staunch disciple of Jesus, and spread the gospel, wrote the Gospel of Matthew, and told countless people about the somebody that saved his soul. And out of the three, that's the only name that we remember. But Matthew, I'm sure, could care less if we remembered his name. He just wants us to remember about Jesus, who saved his soul, and saved the Samaritan woman's soul, and saved the thief's soul, and will save our souls too, if we just turn to him and say, I'm just a nobody, but I'm your nobody. Amen. So Sunday and next week we'll be looking at Jesus as our teacher. And so I'm prepared to learn stuff. I don't know. We'll look at it and see where it takes us. Let's go on to our